will you tell us your name, and if you don't mind telling us your age?
All right, my name is Niesje Spragens. You spell the first name Niesje.
It's a different name. It's very pretty.
Yes, it is. It's Norwegian.
Norwegian.
I'm 94 years old.
And have you always lived in Midway?
No, I married a Midway farmer in 1946. So I've been here ever since.
Okay, ever since then.
What was his name?
Right after World War II.
What was his name?
Bob Hicks.
Oh, okay. All right. Now we have, tonight we have James Hicks is supposed to come. I
Yes.
assume that's a relation to your
He's my
family.
nephew.
Okay, all right. And so how long were you all married?
We were married 21 years.
And,
He died when he was 42, and I was also 42.
okay,
He had lung cancer. He smoked a lot.
yeah. I guess farmers did smoke a lot.
Yeah, especially tobacco farmers.
Right?
What about the DDT? The DDT.
Oh, well, we grew tobacco, and they didn't know that the chemicals were so bad for us as we know now. And they used to spray the tobacco crops with an airplane.
Right.
And then they would tell the farmers not to go out of the house for about 3 or 4 hours. But they went out in about 2 hours.
It's hard to keep farmers from going out to the fields, huh?
Yeah, and at that time too, they used to put a big tank, spray tank, on the back of a large truck, and they would drive around the house and spray all of the shrubbery with DDT.
Oh, gosh.
So it was, I think there were about 3 men on our farm that worked on our farm that died with lung cancer. So it's not very good for you.
No, it's not. And where was the farm?
It's on Leestown Road going toward Lexington. It's the first farm after you come out of Midway on the left. Also on the right, there were 2 brothers, Bob Hicks and Newell Hicks. And Newell they were left the land by their grandmother. Her name was Edna Hicks, Edna Starks Hicks.
Right.
And so when she died, she left one side of the road, the farm on one side of the road to Bob, and the other one on the other side of the road to Newell Hicks. So,
Are those farms still in the family?
No, well, the Newell's farm is, but the other one is had been sold first to the Roaches, and then they sold it to Susie Shoemaker. It's not far. It's only about
2 miles.
about 3 blocks from where you come out of Midway.
So did you like living on a farm?
Oh, I loved living on a farm. Yes. We had Aberdeen Angus cattle, breeding cattle. They weren't sold to eat. They were sold for breeding purposes. And we used to show the cattle at county fairs all summer.
Okay.
And Sarah showed, my daughter Sarah Hicks here, used to show cattle at the fairs, and then we'd end up at the state fair, and she had the grand champion steer one year.
Wow.
So,
That's a pretty big deal, huh?
I was in 5th grade.
Ah, that was a really big deal.
but it was fun because some of the places, the counties where we showed the cattle had state parks, so we could stay at a state park.
That's
and
nice.
It's kind of like a little mini vacation.
Yeah, that sounds very nice. Now, obviously, you have a daughter, Sarah. Any other children?
I had another daughter, older daughter, Catherine, and she died last summer.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So she had cancer.
Yeah.
But Newell Hicks had six children.
Okay. Are they still around here?
They're all still around here,
That's what I
except the
thought.
youngest daughter lives near Paris, Kentucky.
Okay.
But
Not too
there
far.
were 2 live near Versailles, and the others lived right here outside, in Midway and outside, just outside Midway.
So what about your life before you came to Midway?
Well, I grew up in Lexington, Kentucky,
Okay.
and I was just, a normal child, I guess, teenager, and
Tell them where you went to school.
well, I went to the school at the University of Kentucky, and then I went to New York City to design and decorating school.
Wow. How'd you like New York?
I liked it, but I wouldn't want to live there all the time.
Yeah.
It's an exciting town. They have wonderful restaurants and the theater and
Plenty to do.
what?
Plenty to do. There's lots to do there.
Oh, I lived in a huge apartment on Park
Oh,
Avenue.
wow.
That this lady who had been very wealthy was divorced, and she wanted to keep her apartment. So she took in girls to board from some of the colleges there. They were overflows and art schools and secretarial schools, and so she had about 8 bedrooms. It was huge. It was half of a floor of one of those big apartment buildings on Park Avenue.
That sounds like a really exciting experience for a
It
young
was.
person.
It was fun.
How old were you when you were doing that?
I was, 19.
Oh, that was, yeah.
20.
That would be, that's kind of scary to go off to New York City from Lexington
But
at
it's a
19.
very easy city to maneuver. All the avenues go in one direction and the streets go in the other direction. They cross the avenues. And it's easy to find addresses.
Right.
And of course they had the subway. I learned to ride the subway and the double-decker buses.
So did you go on any other adventures to other places since then? Do you like to travel?
I love to travel.
What kind of places have you been?
Oh, let's see, goodness. I've been to England, Scotland, France, Holland, Spain, Portugal,
Belgium.
Yugoslavia, Greece,
Wow.
Belgium.
Belgium, didn't get to Austria or Germany or the Scandinavian countries. Hawaii,
Morocco.
what?
Morocco.
Yeah, Morocco.
Spain.
Yeah, I said Spain, Portugal. Then I've been some of the Caribbean islands.
So what's your favorite place in the world?
The United States.
Midway?
Yes.
Out of all the places you traveled, what
They're
was the-
exciting and fun to see and educational. But I like it here.
Yeah. There's no place like home.
Yes, no place like home.
That's right. That's right. Well, let's see. You told us a little about your family, about your childhood.
Well,
These-
when I was a child, I visited my grandparents. My mother was from Jackson, Tennessee, which is about the same distance we are from Louisville, from Memphis, Tennessee. And so they had a farm, and I used to visit my grandparents for about a month in the summertime. So I've had farm experience before I married.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was,
Tell her how you used to get there.
we used to, the roads were gravel going down through southern Kentucky. And so a lot of times my father would take us to Louisville and we'd get on the Pullman train with, on the Pullman car, and then we'd sleep overnight. It would take us overnight
Oh, gosh.
to get there.
Uh-huh.
And that was kind of different.
Yeah.
They had bunk beds. You had lower bunk and upper bunk. I don't know that they still have those kind of Pullmans anymore. I think
so.
most of them have compartments now. But these had the curtains
Yeah.
hanging there and had a little ladder that you climbed up.
That's more fun than a car ride.
Yeah, yes. Well, back then when we traveled in Kentucky by car, we didn't have air conditioning.
Oh, right.
And it was, so to have some cool air, we put the windows down. So by the time we got to my grandparents' house, we were all covered with dust.
Right.
Because the roads were gravel.
Right.
And so it was, as soon as we'd get there, she'd make us all take a bath.
Tell them when you visited your father's family.
Oh, my grandfather was from, my father's father was from St. Albans, Vermont, and the closest big city was Montreal, Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't visit there until I was about 14. And they had a summer house on Lake Champlain, which was only about 10 or 12 miles from St. Albans.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, they had a little cousin that I had just seen for the first time. And so they had a boat dock, and they used to swim off of the boat dock. And so I had been swimming ever since I was just a really small child.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran down the dock and dived into the water, and it was icy cold.
Uh-huh.
I could hardly get to
Oh,
the
gosh.
dock and the ladder.
Uh-huh.
And so then I got out, and I was turning blue, I think. I was so cold.
Right.
And my cousin said, "Oh my goodness, I never go and dive in like that." She said, "I just go down the ladder one ladder ring at a time.
One step at a time, very slowly.
One step at a time to get used to the cold water."
Right.
I didn't even like swimming in the cold water, even though I got used to it.
Yeah.
Tell them about when you visited your uncle there.
Oh, well, on the way, my parents were going to visit some people at Woods Hole, Massachusetts, which is on the coast. And we rode a ferry boat. It's like a big ship. And went to Martha's Vineyard first, and then went on out to Nantucket Island. And my grandfather's brother had a summer home on Nantucket Island. And so my grandfather and I went along with my mother and daddy, and we took the ferry boat over to Nantucket while they were visiting at Woods Hole. And one of the things that was new to me that when I visited there was I'd never had lobster before.
Ah,
And we had lobster several times, and it was delicious.
I bet.
And another thing that was so pretty was they had a sailboat race, and all the I'm talking about the
Contestants?
the sails. All the sails were, all of them had a different color sail, so they call it the rainbow
Oh, I bet that's pretty.
race, and it was just beautiful.
How many boats are you talking about?
Oh goodness, they were probably over 20,
Okay.
25 or 30. It was a beautiful sight,
I bet.
yeah.
Tell them about what we found out when we went to visit St. Albans at the
Oh.
museum.
Yeah, well, Sarah and I went to St. Albans about 5 or 6 years ago. And she never had been before, and we didn't have any relatives left up there. They'd all died or moved away. And so we went to the museum, and we thought we'd see if we could find out anything about when the family lived there. And they had a whole room devoted to the raid, the Civil War raid, Morgan's raid. It was the most northern city or place where they raided. And they were all from around central Kentucky. They had a whole room on the raid. They had burglarized the banks and other business buildings. They stole all the horses, and they just hated people from Kentucky.
Did you tell anybody you were from Kentucky?
Well, we found out that they had the room all devoted to that raid. They even had a panorama or a little display of where all the buildings were that they raided, and all the names of the raiders, and a lot of the names I recognized. They were old families around Lexington and central Kentucky.
Wow. And you didn't know this was there when you went? You just happened to see it?
No, we didn't know that. But when we saw that, we decided we wouldn't tell them we were from Kentucky.
Keep that to yourself, huh? Wow.
Uh-huh.
How neat.
But it was...
Can I add something?
Mm-hmm.
And that was actually the first international incident because they fled to Canada, and England demanded that they return the raiders to the United States, and Canada refused.
Mm-hmm.
And so it became like an international
Right.
incident.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I don't think many people around Kentucky even know about that. They don't know about the room, and they may
Right.
even know that they raided up there. but-
Right.
But they were all Morgan's men.
Might be a good place for Kentuckians to stay away from.
Oh, it's a beautiful old town.
Yeah, I bet.
It's real, Vermont is a lot like Kentucky.
Is it?
Mhm. The mountains, they have mountains, and of course they have really good ski places and resorts.
Yeah.
It's,
Well, it
Yeah.
sounds like you had a nice childhood, that you got to go do these things
Yes,
with your
we did.
family, and
Mhm.
idyllic.
we did.
That's great.
You want me to tell you any more about the farm?
In Midway, or?
Why don't you tell them about the Midway connection of your best friend's family,
Which
the Talbots, the man that worked for them?
oh, you for us?
For the Talbots.
Oh, what's his first name? Walter Bradley Park.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Walter Bradley, that the park's named for,
Yes.
is the son of I had a neighbor, well, it was a house between our house and their house. And Walter Bradley's one that's named for the park's named for. His father worked for them.
Okay.
And back then, the roads weren't very good, and he would stay. They had servants' quarters behind their house. And so on weekends, sometime they would bring him back to Midway, and he'd spend the weekend with his family, and then they'd go back and get him and bring him back late Sunday afternoon. But sometimes his family would come up and stay with him on the weekend. So we used to play with his children. And I don't forgotten how many he had, but then he educated all of his children.
Really?
And I think Walter Bradley was on the city council here for a while. Not the father, but the son. And he worked in Frankfurt for the state. Real smart man.
Yeah.
You know anything more about him? Sarah's on the park committee.
Yeah. That's good. We're lucky to have her.
I don't know what else to tell you.
That's okay.
But as a farmer's wife, I did the things that most of them did. We had a vegetable garden and an orchard, and I used to can and freeze vegetables and make jelly and jam preserves and freeze fruit.
Anything that you didn't like about living on the farm?
I loved it.
You
No,
loved all of it?
can't think of anything.
That's good.
It's just when you're a farmer and it's just like a little town of your own. You know, you do so many things that you don't do when you're in town. I live in town now.
Sure.
Why don't you tell them about the 4th of July every year?
Oh, well, we built a swimming pool. It was the only pool anywhere around Midway.
Uh-huh.
And so on the 4th of July, all our friends would come out. Well, they would come out. I told them to come anytime they wanted to, but they had to watch their children themselves.
Right.
But,
No lifeguards on duty.
But on the 4th of July, we'd have about 100 people.
Wow.
Friends,
This is at your
around
farm.
Midway. And we would always barbecue meat, because we had the cattle and I had lots of meat. We had a pit barbecue. And everybody else brought a dish, it was potluck.
Right.
And it was fun. We had the pool, the swim in the pool. We had croquet
Uh-huh.
and a swing set, the little children could play on. But we did that every year. It kind of got to be a tradition around Midway.
That sounds
But
like
now
fun.
in the subdivision where I live, which is Galen,
Mm-hmm.
there are 8 swimming pools.
In Galen, there are 8 swimming pools?
There are 8 swimming pools.
I had no idea. Well, somebody needs to have a pool party for the 4th of July.
Well, they don't share their pool like we did.
Right.
I haven't been in but one of them.
Tell them about the fireworks.
But,
The fireworks.
oh yeah, when we had the 4th of July, we had fireworks. We had some friends that would go to Knoxville every summer, and they'd bring back really
The
good,
big,
big
yeah.
fireworks. So we would put them off in the field down below the house. But a lot of people in town would come out and park along the road
To see them.
to see
Yeah.
fireworks.
Yeah.
But it was fun.
That sounds like fun.
But, you know, people kind of contributed. The ones that came out to swim, they would contribute things. Some of the girls would come out in the daytime while their husbands were working and bring a sack lunch.
Yeah.
And I would take some lunch out from the house and go out and eat with them.
Uh-huh.
We had a cooler out there, and we had kept soft drinks in it, iced down.
Right.
So we'd have to get a big piece of ice out almost every day, put it in the
Keep them
cooler.
cold.
And so we always had soft drinks for everybody. It was fun.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. So you said that, people don't share their pools now. How do you feel like the community of Midway has changed over the years?
Oh, it's changed a lot. Downtown has especially changed. It used to be just a little country town, and all the farmers and people would come to town on Saturdays, and they'd buy their groceries, and they had a couple of what they called dry goods stores, but they were like small department stores.
Right.
They sold clothes and hats and shoes and underclothes, just everything.
Anything you needed.
Everything you needed, and they would buy their clothes in Midway and their groceries, and then on Saturday afternoon they had the movie theater in Midway, which is
Wow.
where the theater is now.
Yeah.
And they showed cowboy and Indian movies. They were real popular when I was a child.
Right.
And every Saturday afternoon. So people would just come in town and spend the day.
Yeah.
But it was just a little country town. Now it's very sophisticated.
I can see that. It's more for tourists now than you don't
No.
you don't come here to buy your groceries and your everyday things.
We had restaurants, but they had one restaurant where they had, every day they had what they called a plate lunch. And you'd go in and they maybe had 3 selections. Maybe they'd have beef and pork and maybe chicken.
Yeah.
And the vegetables that would go with those. And you just told them which plate you wanted, and they would fill your plate and bring it to you.
Sounds good.
It was, and in the grocery stores, they had long counters down either side and you took your list in and you handed to the grocer. And all the food, the can and everything was behind the counter.
And they picked it out.
And you just stand there and wait, and they filled your order.
I wouldn't mind doing that now.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. But it was different then.
What about the people in Midway, as far as getting together and doing things for each other?
Oh, well, the churches were a big place where people got together. There really wasn't any place downtown.
There's Women's Club
Well, that didn't, well, yes, but,
and Lions Club.
yes. We still have the women's club.
Yeah. How long have you been a member of the Women's Club?
Oh, goodness. I think I'm trying to think.
You might be the longest standing member.
I think I am now. But my mother-in-law was a member. I think I was about in my 40s before I joined. The girls are younger that are in there now. But I waited till my children were grown before I
Yeah.
joined.
Yeah.
Well, I was a farmer's wife too. I was busy.
You were busy.
Yes.
Yeah. So how old were you when you had children?
Let's see. I had Catherine when I was about 22,
Mm-hmm.
and Sarah 4 years later.
Okay. Yeah. So by the time you were 40, they were older. See, I'm 40 now, and I still have young kids, but I waited a little longer. So.
Well, people have children later now, I
Yeah,
think.
they do.
But we all my friends, we all probably married within 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to a lot of weddings.
I bet.
And we were bridesmaids.
Right. I bet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was, people married younger.
Mhm.
Well, I think the war had something to do with it, World War II.
Mhm.
When all the soldiers came back, they wanted to marry their girlfriends.
Ready to settle down.
Mhm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Have a normal life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, can you talk about someone in your life who maybe had the greatest influence on you?
Let's see. I guess actually my mother did.
Mm-hmm.
Because my father worked every day, so I'd say my mother probably had the most influence on my life.
Were you close?
We were close.
Mm-hmm.
I never was that far away. My two sisters, one married the son of one of my mother's best friends in Jackson, Tennessee, and she still lives there.
Mm-hmm.
And my other one married and lives in Flemingsburg, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
So I was the only one that was really close by.
Right.
So I was the one that kind of waited on them and did things when they were old.
Mm-hmm.
Like Sarah does that for me.
Yeah. That's what we do, right? For family.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. What makes you the proudest in your life?
My children.
Mm-hmm.
I think my children made me the proudest.
Mm-hmm.
They were both real sweet girls, real smart girls, and Sarah's taking care of me now.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, in talking to Sarah, she's done a lot in her lifetime. She's been a lot of places and done a lot of things.
She really has.
I think maybe you instilled your sense of adventure in her.
She's really interesting to, be near because she tells things that I didn't know before because she was in California for 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
And she was in Naples, Florida for how many, 10?
Mm-hmm.
About 10 years. And of course, and she lived in Frankfurt, or Lawrenceburg for a little, 2 or 3 years. And Frankfurt, you never did really live in Frankfurt.
Cincinnati,
Cincinnati for 4 years.
Colorado,
Well, I forgot about Colorado.
Virginia,
For just,
Sweetbriar.
she went to Sweetbriar College
Mm-hmm.
in Virginia. But she was gone a lot. But she came back here about, 10 years ago?
2004.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember time.
It just goes by so quickly.
But you say...
It goes by very quickly. Time
Yes, it
passes.
does.
Mhm.
It really does. I've been taking care of her some, and she's been taking care of me.
It works out well.
Mm-hmm.
Take care of each other.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
How would you like people to remember you, Niesje?
I guess I love people.
Mm-hmm.
I've always liked to be around people
Mm-hmm.
and know what they're doing and know their history.
Yeah. You're a very social person.
I guess I like people.
Yeah.
I guess that's being social.
Yeah, it
Yes.
shows.
Tell her about your garden club.
Well, I belong to a garden club. Well, we just go see people's gardens and have speakers,
Uh-huh. Just
And
locally?
have lunch. Well, locally, we did go up into Ohio one time
Mm-hmm.
to a famous garden up there, and mainly around central Kentucky. And we have been to Louisville for house tours, garden tours.
Right.
And tell her about when the garden club started, how long everybody's been a member.
Oh, goodness. I'm not sure how long I've been. I didn't start, I wasn't in that garden club when it started.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I've been in the garden club since about 1980.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I was in a book club. It was kind of mainly people from Midway and Frankfurt and Versailles.
Mm-hmm. So do you garden in your home?
Not anymore. I used to.
Yeah.
Sarah gardens.
Mm-hmm. I've seen her flowers.
I've given her a few of my plants.
Mm-hmm.
I still have some more to give her.
So you still live on your own,
Yes.
right?
Well, I can't drive anymore.
Yeah. But you drove for a long time. I mean, it hasn't been that long since you've stopped driving.
No, I was really sick about 3 years ago, and I started getting macular degeneration, and I couldn't see real well to drive. I was afraid that a child would run out in front of me or a dog or something,
Right.
and I wouldn't see him soon enough
Mm-hmm.
because my sight's gotten so I don't see well in the distance.
Right.
See better close up.
Mm-hmm.
You drove till you were 91, didn't you?
Why?
I think you drove till you were 91.
Yes, I drove until I was 91. Mother drove until she was 93.
Wow.
She died when she was 96.
Okay.
I can't remember how old my grandparents were.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, I probably would still be driving if I could see.
Right. Yeah.
But I have a friend here at Midway that's about 90, she's probably 98, and she still drives in Midway.
Who's that?
Well, she actually lives on a farm, Mary Ellen Greathouse.
Yeah.
She comes here to get
She
books.
does.
And she still drives at Midway, but they've told her not to drive to Lexington anymore.
Really? Yeah.
I was talking to her the other day, and she said, well, I'd come to see you, but I don't get out as much.
Mm-hmm.
She's amazing.
She is.
Mhm.
Yeah. Maybe we should interview her next.
That would be a good idea.
Oh, good. Yeah, she can tell you a lot about the horse business.
Yeah.
I think they had one of the Derby winners one time.
Oh, really?
I think they did, or at least they bred it. I'm not sure whether they raced it or not, but they bred it.
Well, there's certainly a lot of people in Midway with a lot of rich history that we would like to interview. And thank you so much for
there are a
coming
lot
in
of
here,
people.
Niesje.
Oh, you might want to interview some of the Alexander family. They were one of the earliest families here.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know who would, well, Breary and Libby Jones would be good ones to interview.
I had asked Libby to come tonight, and she's in Washington. She has a...
Oh, is she?
Yeah, she had a meeting of some sort. So she
But
could-
they would be really good to interview, I think.
Yeah.
They could ask Kathy Brewer.
Yeah. Kathy lives in Lexington now.
She might come down.
She might come down. Mhm.
Is there anything else you want to say before we turn off the camera?
Ann, go ahead.
About the library?
Yeah.
Well, the library, the Midway Library started in the Midway Presbyterian Church. And then they moved to the little house near the old school, which is now an apartment building. And they had the house there, and it has reed on it, on the banisters. And that was the second place where they had it. And they were so successful that the Woodford County Library decided that they would like to combine with it. And when they did that, they built the building here, the new building.
Yeah, that was quite a process. I think a lot of people worked hard to get the library.
Oh, yes, and well, we were all volunteers. I volunteered at both places to keep it going.
So tell them about the
Our
first.
first employee was Margaret Smith.
Yeah.
So tell them
And
about the first library, what it looked like. You were going to tell her how it was in the fellowship hall and
Yeah,
at the
well,
church.
It was not the fellowship hall we have now. That building has been torn down. But the bookshelves came from a school that closed, that was down, the southern part of the county. And they gave us all their bookshelves. And then we put the bookshelves just along the wall, all the way around the room. And then we had a desk and had a file box. And that's how it started. And then they moved to the
Where'd you get the
house,
books?
which is out near the old school.
Right.
Where'd you get the books?
The books were donated. Books were donated, and then when they had book sales sometime at the Woodford County Library for sales, we would get some of the books
Sure.
that they were going to sell.
Because Helen Hicks drove the bookmobile,
That's what I heard.
right?
Yeah. And Hilda Starksville
Drove the
drove the
bookmobile.
bookmobile.
And Judy Offutt, who also goes to Presbyterian Church, was also a librarian. So they,
Yeah, she was on the board when they built this library.
I think she had something to do with the garden.
Yes.
I
And
think
you
she
know-
was also associated with Midway University.
Probably.
I've seen her, I think she might have been associated with Midway, with, at the time, Midway College's library.
Okay.
Because I've seen her, like,
She was
I have
one-
seen the name Offutt as the cataloger
But
for
she
certain
was a
books.
librarian at Sayre School in Lexington.
Okay, well, maybe it was kin to her
Yeah,
that
maybe
was
it's
at
a
Midway.
relative.
Uh-huh. And she
That's so interesting.
was interested when they built the new library at the college.
Yeah.
but she's
Well, I
Judy
think they used to
Knuckles.
call it the
Yes.
university.
Alfred is her cousin.
Right. And Niesje, do you know that this library, we're getting ready to turn 10 years old?
I can't believe
This
it.
building, in May, it'll be our 10-year
That's
anniversary.
amazing.
It's such a great library.
Yeah.
We're very lucky
This
to
was
have it.
really a wonderful addition for Midway, I think.
I think so.
And the school, of course, it was a good location near the school.
Yeah, it's perfect. We have kids that walk over, we have a class that came over today.
That I think we've come a long way in Midway,
Yeah,
really.
we have. I really enjoyed hearing what you had to say.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I
Thanks for
enjoyed
coming in on
doing
this
it.
cold night.
It is cold.
It is, yeah. All right.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. Maybe we'll do it again sometime.
Maybe I'll have some more exciting experiences.
That's right. The next time you have something exciting, come tell us about it.
I can't think of anything else unless you want to know something else.